Hello and welcome to this little video clip, which is an introduction to my new book. My new book is entitled A Wounded Psychotherapist, The Childhood of Albert Ellis. And the purpose of this video is really just to give you a flavour of the book. So I typed out a couple of little statements which I think convey the essence of the book, which should help you. So the first one says, this book shows that Albert Ellis's childhood damage arising out of his parents' neglect of him had a negative effect on his later theory of REBT. So that's obviously a very important thing to investigate if you use REBT or you use CBT, which has been influenced by REBT. Or if you're interested in that whole area of who Albert Ellis was and how he was wired up. The second insight is that or the second indication of the flavour of the book is that if the insights of this book are taken on by REBT and CBT therapists, then their clients will benefit from a warmer and more secure relationship with their therapist, which can help to heal their childhood wounds. And one of my points is that Albert Ellis's theory, as it currently exists, cannot help the client to achieve earned security in their relationship with their therapist, because the therapist is not paying sufficient attention to the importance of processing childhood emotional experience. Those of you who know Albert Ellis very well will know that his position about childhood was forget the god-awful past. And this book is saying you cannot forget the god-awful past. There are very good reasons why you should not go down that route. So if you find that interesting, then that should be a very good motivation to take a look at this book. The target audience is any counsellor, psychotherapist, psychologist, social worker, and so on, who uses systems of counselling and therapy which have clearly been influenced by Albert Ellis. Other people who might be interested are people who are looking to try to preserve elements of the psychodynamic approach in the face of the onward march of CBT. I think they will also find very interesting material in this book which will help them. So how did I get into writing this book? Where did it come from? Basically, last summer, every year since Albert Ellis died, before Albert Ellis died for several years, I was involved in a campaign to try to get him reinstated at his own institute in New York. And each year from his death on the 24th of July 2007, I have, along with Renata, my wife, written something and published something on the internet to commemorate his life and his work. Last year, in preparation for the 24th of July, I read a section of his autobiography which deals with his relationships with women, from his first girlfriend Carol right the way through Janet to Debbie Joffe, who became Debbie Joffe Ellis. And what I discovered was, and I wrote this up in a document which was published last year, was that Albert Ellis had an insecure attachment style in his relationships with the women in his life. And I have now analysed that back to his childhood and found links back to his relationship with his mother. So the idea of the book was to try to explore that relationship further, to go back and look at the childhood damage of Albert Ellis, who was seriously neglected as a little child, and to then try to map that forward, to see how it maps forward into various aspects of his philosophy of psychotherapy. In the past, he has mainly argued that his psychotherapy came out of his study of philosophy as a teenager. But in this book, I set out to demonstrate that a great deal of his philosophy of psychotherapy actually came out of the childhood damage that was inflicted upon him by parental neglect. So I looked at the book and I found it really hard to get into it, to get under the skin of the story. And so I then, I think quite accidentally, stumbled upon the idea of running some comparative analyses. So I had to look at some other autobiographies, for example the autobiography of Laurie Lee, who wrote Cider with Rosie, and also Glyn Hughes, a poet who's written quite a lengthy prose poem about his childhood, and an actor, an engineer, a famous British snooker player, and a number of others. And I looked at their autobiographies, and I looked at the early years of their childhood, and I tried to find comparisons and contrasts with aspects of Albert Ellis' story of the early years of his relationship. And by the way, the first 4 years of his childhood is completely gone. There's nothing before the age of 4. From the age of 4 onwards, it's about starting school and so on. And so I did some comparisons, and some very interesting points come out when you start to look at those comparisons. And I was able to do quite a bit of detective work using those contrasts and comparisons. And I think you will find, if you get the book, that it provides insights into aspects of Albert Ellis, the person, which was never available before. So that's what's unique about the book. It provides some insights into the emotional life of little Albert, and how that maps forward into the emotional struggles and the emotional failings and failures of older Al. And as I work through the book, I eventually get to a section where I pull together the strengths and weaknesses of rational emotive behavior therapy and those systems of CBT that are influenced by rational emotive behavior therapy. And I think that presents a kind of agenda for change. Anybody who wants to take REBT forward in a healthy way really needs to consider this agenda for change and to identify those bits of REBT which can be taken forward and those bits which need to be modified or discarded. And so that's the basic message of the book, and my appeal to you really is that you get the book, read the book, study the book, and try to make some kind of sense of it in terms of what you could do differently with your clients, which could help your clients to become more emotionally intelligent in their relationship with you, which they can then transfer into their relationships with other people so that they can have a happier, more successful relational life, which Albert Ellis had a great deal of difficulty with and could never be said to have succeeded in terms of emotional intelligence or his relationship skills. And again, you may not have realized that, and so that's very important to go and take a look at that. So the book is called A Wounded Psychotherapist, The Childhood of Albert Ellis and the Strengths and Limitations of REBT/CBT. If you do a search online, you should be able to find the page where I provide a lot of information about the contents and extracts from various chapters and so on, which will give you much more information about the nature of the book, the state of the book, the strengths of the book, the things that you can acquire from the book. So I suggest you do that kind of search. If you go online and search for A Wounded Psychotherapist, actually you can probably get it just through A Wounded Psychotherapist, Jim Byrne, B-Y-R-N-E. But A Wounded Psychotherapist, Albert Ellis's childhood, should get it. So I hope you found this little video introduction interesting. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you find that it appeals to you to go and get the book and review it and see what sense you can make of it in terms of how you currently work with your clients and things that you could change that would offer your clients a better chance to have happy and successful relationships. So I'm for happy and successful relationships. I'm grateful to you for the time you've spent with me today, and I hope you have some wonderful relationships in your life. So take very good care of yourself, and bye for now.